Hi, it's Trapper here. I'd like to welcome you to the ITC Geeks Professional Development Build Your OneNote Class Notebook. In this PD, we're going to explore how to create and use our OneNote Class Notebook. But before we begin, let's take a quick look at our agenda. A quick reminder, while instructional videos are great, transitions and information sometimes can come quickly. To get the most from this video, please remember to pause often, rewind when necessary, and watch again. In this session, we'll be covering the following: using Schoology to create our OneNote Class Notebook, deciding which app to use with our class notebook, looking at the added feature set of our class notebook, how to use the class notebook ribbon to pass out and collect content, and finally, we will discuss where your notebook lives and resides, which changes depending on where it was created. We have plenty to talk about, so let's jump right in and create a notebook. We'll talk about the features and how it works after. Before we begin, here's a quick peek at all the steps that we're going to go through to make our notebook. For this presentation, we're going to make our notebook in Schoology. This process is similar to making the notebook in Office 365 and a little different than making it in Microsoft Teams. For time's sake, we will not show how to make the notebook in Teams, but do know it's very easy, actually probably easier. We can talk more about these differences in the last section of the presentation. So, let's make that class notebook. First, let's go to Schoology and open the course that we want to make our class notebook for. On the left side of the course, you will find the OneNote Class Notebook button. Go ahead and give it a click. This will start the process of making our notebook by opening a welcome screen that will ask us to sign in. Go ahead and click the button and sign in. Of the four choices, let's choose the obvious one, create a class notebook. We are now prompted to make the name of our notebook. By default, it will be named the same as our Schoology course. If you'd like a different name, enter that now. I'm going to change the name just a bit and click Next. Here we see the added value a class notebook gives us over just using a OneNote notebook. Remember that only in a class notebook do you get a private student notebook for each of your students, but also a space for content and collaboration. In the collaboration space, everyone can edit, so be careful what you put there. This is a great space for group work and brainstorming. In the content library, you have editing rights, but the students can only view. So, this is where students would copy content to put into their own notebooks. Think of this as the place like where you put your leftover copies after you've passed out an assignment. Only you can see the teacher-only section. This is where you build the content before moving it into the content library or collaboration space. Think of this like a construction zone. Finally, you will get a student notebook for each student in your Schoology course. Click the Next button on the bottom of the screen so we can finish creating our class notebook. On this screen, we see a place to enter any other teachers that you want to share administrative rights for your notebook with. Add any appropriate co-teachers and click Next. It's finally time to add students. We have two choices to select from, automatically or manually. Obviously, we are going to choose automatically. Here's an important note. Students will only be added to the class notebook after they click on the OneNote button in their own Schoology course. Not until your students click on the OneNote button from their course will you see their names in your notebook. Choose automatically and click Next. On this screen, we get to choose what tabs the students will see in their notebooks. We should take a second here to think about how to design our notebooks. Notebooks are personal and should be designed how best works for you. With that said, we can only rename tabs, not delete them. My recommendation is to start as simple as possible. I'm going to start with a single tab called Unit 1. Straightforward and easy to understand. For an elementary classroom, I might start with a tab that I know that I'll use daily or weekly, like journals. You create as many tabs as you like, but remember, you cannot delete them, and this is new for your students, so less is more. It's important to note that these tabs will only show up in the student sections and not the content library. You will need to create all of those to match if you would like. Once you're satisfied, go ahead and click Next. Finally, we are shown a preview of what the class notebook will look like before we click Create. If it looks good, go ahead and click the button to create your notebook. In a few seconds, we will see a screen letting us know that our notebook is ready. Congratulations, you now have your very own class notebook. I bet you're thinking, let's crack this notebook open and start creating content. And that's exactly what we'll do. Just after we talk about the differences between the apps that you can open your class notebook in. As you see near the top of the screen, there are two links to access our new class notebook. Clicking the left link will open the notebook in the desktop app, and the right link will open the notebook up in the browser. Let's start with the latter and open it up in the browser. We now see our browser launch and a new tab open with our class notebook. This is the cloud version of our class notebook, as you can clearly see a URL and tabs at the top of the browser. The advantages of this app is that it's available on any computer and is always the most up-to-date version of our class notebook. The disadvantage of the cloud version is that it suffers from decreased functionality, lag, and less features. I only use this app for viewing and making small quick edits. Okay, it's time to look at the second app that we can actually open our class notebook into, which is the OneNote Windows 10 desktop app. So what I'd like you to do is look up at the center of our screen. We can see a button that says Open in the Desktop app. I'd like you to click that now. Now a second version of our class notebook will open, only this time it will be the desktop Windows 10 OneNote application. It should look almost identical to the cloud version we already have open. The only difference being is no URL or tabs at the top. If a slightly different version of OneNote opens instead, it's okay. We'll fix that in just a minute. But for now, let's finish talking about the Windows 10 version. The Windows 10 version of your class notebook resides on your computer and not in the cloud. It is only accessible via the computer, this computer, and syncs back to the cloud version of our class notebook. This is the app that we recommend that you and your students use to access the class notebook. It is the most feature-rich and functional version. You will have the best experience using this app with your class notebook. Now, there is a third version of the class notebook app. This version is called the OneNote app, commonly referred to as OneNote 2016. It is a legacy version that early OneNote adopters used back in 2003, like me. We do not recommend using this version as it looks different than the other apps and it suffers from laggy syncing. If this version opened originally when you click the Open in Desktop app button, let's take a second so that we can fix this so it doesn't happen again. Use the instructions launching the wrong desktop app from browser found in the Schoology course to change this. Once you've followed the instructions and made the changes, please click Open in the Desktop app button again. This time, you will launch your class notebook in the recommended Windows 10 app. Now, let's take a closer look at the added features of OneNote Class Notebook versus a OneNote Notebook. All right, you can see here that we've got our OneNote Windows 10 app open with our class notebook up and running. The difference between a OneNote and a class OneNote notebook really falls around the collaboration space, the content library, the teacher-only section, and the student sections. Those are all unique to a class notebook. The Welcome tab is like any other tab in any OneNote, not necessarily a class notebook. So let's take a little bit closer of a look how each of these sections work so we can be better prepared when we go to use it with our class. So stopping at the collaboration space, you can see that I can toggle it open. And inside of there, I have an activity 1, which has a single page in it called First Thoughts. This is just a demo assignment for my students as they come in. So let me show you how the students would interact with this. In the collaboration space, remember, this is editable and viewable by everyone. So I'm going to go to one of my student accounts here. We'll click this one open. This seems to be my son's account and he's in my class. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate to the course. He's going to open the course and then he's going to click on that OneNote Class Notebook button. And as you can see, it's going to go ahead and give him some options to open it. Now we do recommend that you work in OneNote, the Windows 10 app, with your students. This is what we'd like to have them do. But for our training purposes today, I have to open them up in the OneNote Online. So I'm going to click that open, and you'll see that it opens up a new tab in the browser, and you can see that the notebook opens up. So I'm going to navigate to his collaboration space, and then I'm going to click on the activity, and I'm going to find that activity right here. So he seems to be the second one in my list, so we'll put him under number 2. Tables are a great way to work inside of the collaboration space because it designates a location for each student to respond. This does work collaboratively, so you can type anywhere and any student can type anywhere, but that also opens the possibility of having 10 students typing in the same cell. OneNote will become confused, you will get some errors. So denoting different spaces by a student number or a class number is a great way to work around any issues like that. But he's going to come in here and he's going to do his response. So he responded whatever that needed to be. I'm going to go to another student in the class. This is going to be my daughter. And you can see immediately as we go into hers, she's already logged into the online notebook, that his response is there. And she can see that. So she's going to go in and respond. And so she's going to respond also, whatever her response is. But do note that she can take this and she can modify it. So she can change the color. She can delete it. She can change the title. If she wanted to put an emoji at the beginning because she's being funny, or maybe this is her favorite assignment. And you can see that she's modified this page. But let's go back and look at both my son's account. And you can see here, he is seeing the same changes. And then I will go to mine. And you can see I will also have those exact same changes. So in here, this is editable by everyone. So that's one of the things to pay attention to. It might work really well to set some ground rules for this to avoid messing with the title and or directions or the structure of activities in here, or make it so that when you give these assignments to the students that they can do whatever they want in there and it matters not to you. All right, next, let's take a look at the content library. Remember, the content library is something that's editable by you, but view only by the students, meaning that this would be similar to a library where students can check things out of there. So they would go into the content library and copy a page, take it back to their folders, paste it, then they can do the editing. This would be the equivalent to passing out papers, having some left over, and then you stick them in your folder that's in the back of the room and you say, hey, absent students or missing students, the extra folders or the extra papers are in the back. This allows you to build a library of content that you've given out to all of your students that is blank and unchanged for any time that they need to reference it, or if you decide not to pass out an assignment that we'll show you how to do later. So let's take a look at how Trey might interact with one of these activities. So in the content library, I have my Unit 1 tab, and then here I've got a demo assignment. Again, it's got some amazing directions with this. So I'm going to take this assignment, and Trey is we're going to actually jump over to Trey. So let's jump over to Trey, and we'll notice that we've got the activity up that we had before. Next, let's go ahead and open his folder, and he's going to go to his Unit 1 tab, and we can see that I've already given him the assignment at some point. So he comes in, I've passed out the assignment to Trey, he can come in here and actually do this particular assignment. So he's going to take these awesome directions, he's going to enter down, and he's going to type an amazing response, and he's going to complete this assignment. But what we wanted to do is see how this would interact with the content library. So let's go back into the content library. So we're going to click it open, and we're going to go to the Unit 1 tab inside of the content library. Since we already had assignment 1 passed out to us, let's grab assignment number 2. So here's assignment number 2. It's a blank page, but it is what it is. So we're going to go ahead and try to, and notice we are Trey at this point. We're going to try to click in this page, and you'll notice I can click in here, but it's highlighting some stuff, but I'm not able, and I'm attempting to type right now. And I can't type, I can't draw, I can't grab anything. And the reason that is because remember, in the content library, he can't edit anything that's in here. So for him to edit this assignment, what he's going to do is he's going to click on the actual assignment, and he's going to click this choice right here where it says copy. And now he's going to go back to his Unit 1 tab. So he's essentially checking out this assignment, much like a library. He's going to click anywhere inside of this page thing with a right click, and he's going to click paste. And you'll notice that now the assignment number 2 shows up. And if I click in here, I can now edit this assignment. So that's a quick look at how the content library works and how the students can't edit inside of there and how they can pull materials out of there. All right, next on the agenda is to take a look at the teacher only section. And now we're in trays. Before we leave trays, let's do note that if we close everything down just to make it look as simple as possible, that we can see a collaboration space, content library, and just him, along with that welcome tab. We see no teacher only section. And we'll just pop open Ava's here and notice again, she does not see the teacher only section. And additionally, she only sees her name and not Trey's. So let's at this point open up our notebook and you'll notice that we have all of those spaces. Collaboration, content, teacher only. And this again is where you're going to build your assignments before you put them in the collaboration space or the content library. So this would be like sample assignments. Maybe you're building things that you're going to pass out. And so you have a bunch of assignments that you're getting ready to send to the kids, but you don't want them to see it quite yet. So this is where you would house them. So this is your construction zone, if you will. And then again, for the student sections, notice that for every student that you will have them listed and you can go into their tabs and you can see everything that they have inside of there. At some point, we obviously made some extra tabs for these students. So, but you can see all those and then they can't see within each other as we just showed. All right, now that we've explored some of the differences between a class notebook and a OneNote notebook by looking at the collaboration, content library, and the teacher-only sections along with the student sections, let's take a look at some other differences that we have with the class notebook, some of the other features that we get. The main thing that we get, the last additional thing that we get is what we call a class notebook ribbon. This provides us some operations or the ability to pass out papers, collect papers back, even grade and provide feedback in here. So this is like the inner workings of your class notebook. So let's take a little bit closer of a look for these particular features and how to use this class note ribbon to get the most out of your class notebook. All right, when you click on the class notebook ribbon, and you click here, you're gonna get these options here. And we're gonna explore all of these so that you have an idea of how each of these work. So the first one, and probably the most important one on here, is the distribute page. This is essentially you walking up and down the aisles of your class, passing out a piece of paper or content to each student as you go. So if we click this, you can see that we have more than one choice to do this. So let's go one by one on here and show how this works. So before we do that, let's go back to our content library, open it up, and let's go to another video assignment. So we'll go to this third video assignment here. So I'm gonna go ahead and distribute this to my students. So now that I've selected the page here, so you want to make sure that you select the page first. You can even select multiple pages. We won't, but we could. If we hold the control key and we click on the page below or pages above, we can select or deselect them. But that's using the control key. So let's just select a single page. We'll just select page 3 and we're going to go up here and choose distribute page. I'm going to come down here and choose the very first option, which is distribute page. So what this is going to do is it's going to distribute this page to all of the students in this class notebook. So I'm going to click it. You'll notice that on the right, there will be a menu that opens up. And it's going to say all of the possible tabs that are inside of my students' folders. And again, we made a unit 1 in the video, but prior to this, I've had a couple other tabs made. So you can see how this looks much more confusing. There's just more going on in here instead of just a unit 1. So with the unit 1, that's where we're going to put this. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to choose unit 1. And then it says, you'll notice that the button lights up at the bottom and it says that we can distribute now. And again, it's verifying that this page, page 3, demo video assignment, page 3, demo video assignment, number 3, and we're going to go ahead and click. And what you'll see happen here is that this will process and it'll let you know when we're done. It'll give you a % complete when it's distributed that to all of the students. Okay. Now that's completed. We should be able to go in here to trace on our own folder, right? We'll start there first. So we'll go to unit 1 and we'll see that now if we click down here, he has our number 3 assignment, the demo video assignment that's in his folder now. And we can even go back over to my daughter's. We'll go over to Ava's here and we'll verify in her unit 1 that it was passed out to her as well. And notice we didn't give her the other assignment. So she's got just that single third assignment there and she can see it. And now she can also edit it just to verify because it's in her folder. She can edit as well. Now let's go back and go back into our folder and take a look at one of the other options that we have available. So instead of just distributing a single page, we can do an individual distribution. What this is going to do, instead of sending it to every student in my class notebook, like this top option would do, this one's going to send it to students that I select. So if I click this one, again on unit 3, or assignment 3 here, I get a choice of students. You can see that I would normally have every student in my class. Right now there's just 2. Ava has it and Trey has it, but I could give it to them again, right? If we chose a different assignment here. One thing to note really quickly is that I am not in the content library, so there it is. And you can see, even notice how I click between these with this menu open. You can see that the title changes. So then I can choose which assignment to give it. So we did notice that Ava didn't have the first 2 assignments, so we're going to click and we're going to hold Control click on the first and second assignment. And then I'm going to go ahead and click Ava because she didn't have them in her folder. And I'm going to click Next. I'm going to choose that Unit 1 tab again. And I'm going to click Distribute. And this will process. You can see it's doing both of those and it'll tell me when they're complete. They are done now. So we should be able to go into Ava's folder, into her Unit 1, and we should see that now she has that first assignment and second assignment now listed in hers. All right, let's go back to that distribute page option and let's check out the next one down on the list, which is group distribution. This is kind of what it says. In this option, we're going to be able to pre-create groups that will be stored. And then anytime that we want to pass out to these particular groups, we can go ahead and click this option and it'll pass it out just to them. So that's fantastic if you have ability groups or reading groups, or if you use groups a lot in your classroom and you give, jigsaw puzzles or different activities that require the groups to have their own materials that are different between groups. This would be a fantastic way to operate that. So let's first go back to our content library. We'll shrink Ava's down. Let's choose this layer, assignment number 4, this layer example, and we'll go ahead and choose that group distribution. And what you'll notice is that when this pops up, it gives us the ability to take and make a new group. So we'll click on that. We can make the new group name anything that we want. So we'll say, well, let's just call them Red Group. So this is Red Group. And then we can choose the students. We only have 2, so we'll pick the 2 that we have, and we'll go ahead and click Save. So what this did is this now named the group, the Red Group. I've got both of my students in here. I can go back 1 level, and you'll notice that now I've got Red Group. And I could create a bunch of other groups if I had more students, which I don't, but now you can see here it says, would you like to give layer 4 to the Red Group? So I'm going to choose the groups that I'd like to give it to. I'm going to go ahead and click Next. I'm going to choose where I'm going to put that assignment. We'll put it back into Unit 1 like we've been doing. We'll click Distribute, and you'll notice that this is going to go ahead and show us the processing option. And once that's done, we should be able to go and see that that group, that Red Group, received that assignment. As we can see here, it's now finished. So we'll jump in here, we'll look under Trey's Unit 1, and there is layer 4, or assignment 4, and we'll come into Ava's, we'll check hers as well, and you can see she's also got assignment 4. So that's group distribution, very handy if you use groups within your class. Next, let's check out cross notebook distribution, but this one we won't be able to do fully, but what cross notebook distribution does is this allows me to take an assignment that I may have. So if I'm in let's say this is my first hour, and I made this assignment number 4, and I want to give it to all of my hours, and say I've got 5 of the same prep. So I want to give it to all 5 of my classes. I want everybody to have this assignment. Instead of individually doing it in each notebook, what I can do is I can come up here, I can choose cross notebook distribution. And what that will do is when it opens up here, we'll give it just a second. It's going to say, hey, would you like to take that page? And you can give it to any of your other notebooks. As you can see, I have a few other notebooks up here, all class notebooks. It won't give it to a OneNote notebook. And if I choose them, which these are live notebooks, and if I click next, it would send them out to every student for every notebook that I clicked. So this is similar to linking your classes in Schoology. And when you give an assignment, it gives it to all linked classes. This would be something similar to that. Very handy if you have a multiple classes that are getting the same assignment. There is a caution of note to say here. You may be passing these papers out, and it might be multiple pages long to maybe up to 100, 150 kids, depending on how many classes you have that you're giving this assignment to. That can be a massive amount of material that you're passing out. So that can take some time. This would be something if you're going to pass it out to multiple notebooks and it's a fairly decent sized assignment. You may want to do it a few hours before, or maybe the night before, just to make sure that it processes in time before the kids get to class. I wouldn't do this at the start of class. You're going to have a little bit of lag, a little bit of delay. All right, and then going back in here, and let's look at the last option. The last option is to delete a page, and this is a fantastic tool.
If you give something out, like we give this layer assignment out and we decided we don't want to give that layer, that number 4, this layer example out, we're going to go ahead and click on that. And it's going to open up the tabs that they have inside of the student folders, which we've put everything into Unit 1. So we'll click there. I'm going to go ahead and click Next. And what it's going to do is it's going to allow me to take any of these assignments that it has in here that I've passed out, and I can select them and it will pull it back out of theirs. So it's going to tell me that this is going to permanently delete this from the student notebooks. If there is work on there, you will delete any work that's done. So be cautious to use this, but it is very powerful. So I'm going to click Delete. It's going to confirm this, just really making sure that you're doing what that you're attempting to delete these assignments. And we'll wait for that to process. It's done now. We should be able to go in here and we'll notice that Ava's is not there anymore, her assignment number 4. And additionally with Trey, you'll see it disappear really quickly. So that is a super powerful tool if you passed out the wrong assignment or if there was something you wanted to add to the assignment. Very powerful to use. So just to review, distribute page allows you to send a single page to the class notebook that you're in. Individual distribution allows you to send a single page or multiple pages to individual students. Group will allow you to send single or multiple pages to groups that you preset up. Cross notebook distribution will allow you to send single or multiple pages to all of your class notebooks that you choose. And delete a page will allow you to retract a page from the class notebook that you're in. Fantastic. Okay, moving down the ribbon, we have our next choice here, which is distribute new section. And this is going to do what we just did with sections instead of pages. So if we click on this, we can distribute a new section to this notebook, or we can distribute a new section group. The section group is a group of tabs you can see here by the picture. So if we chose that option, you can see here that it'll open this up and it'll say, what new section would you like to give? I would like to give the students a project section because we're about to work on a long-term project. I'm going to go ahead and say distribute. Once that says done, which it did, and I've closed it, we should be able to go back to the student folder. So we'll go into Ava's folder and we'll open up hers, and you can see it's open there, and we'll see down at the bottom now she has a new section folder called project. All right, let's go back and look at what a new section group is. But instead of sending that out, just for ease of sake, if I right click over here, I can just create my own new section group. And a section group then is like kind of what you see with the students. So they get their name, it gives you a little bit of order, and then underneath there you can collapse it. You can have their folders inside of it and you can open those up. So it really allows you a little bit more of a structure to it. So a section group for your students would be more of an advanced thing. I probably wouldn't start with a new section group for them. It might be something that I use first. Really just keeping the tabs are usually enough structure for the OneNote notebook that it keeps them on pace. All right, let's talk about the next option on our ribbon, which is copy to content library. This is a great tool for the semester change or the end of a year or between new years, or if you're sharing contents with another teacher and you'd like to move all of your contents at one time. What this allows you to do is allows you to take anything that's inside of your content library, everything that's in your content library. So if we had multiple tabs, say we had, it's the end of the semester, I've got, 6 or 7 tabs with, 10 or 15 pages in each tab. The only way that I can move them out of this notebook currently without that option is to right click and choose move or copy, but I can only do that one tab at a time. And I have to do that a few times. It gets a little repetitive. It consumes quite a bit of time. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose this option, choose to copy content library. That's going to open up over here and it's going to say all of the tabs that I have in my content library. I can choose to select them. So I'm going to select Unit 1. We'll pretend that I've selected all of mine at this point. Then I can choose next and it'll open up any other class notebooks, because it has to be a class notebook that I can copy this into. So it'll take whatever's in these that I've selected and it'll move it into the content library of these new notebooks that I have here. So if I scroll around, I should have one that said next year's notebook, but you can see I've got quite a few, so sometimes it gets a little tough to find the one that I'm looking for. So we'll just choose this delete me one, and I'm going to copy that material in there. So we're going to go ahead and click that, and then you can see once this is done, it's going to take these 4 assignments and this one tab, and it's now copied it to that delete me folder. Now I don't have that up, but had I opened it, you would see the exact same content library as it's in this one. All right, next on our list of the ribbon for the class notebook ribbon is review student work. Now this is probably your most powerful button here in terms of things that you can do, because what this allows you to do is after the students have completed the content that you've given them, this is a quick way, instead of popping into each of their individual folders and navigating to each assignment, this will allow you to pull up all of the assignments at once and grade down through the same assignment for all of your students. So let's go ahead and click on that. You have two choices when you do this. You can do the review the student work for this particular class notebook, or you can do all of your notebooks at the same time. So this one's super useful because it's much easier sometimes to grade everybody's similar assignment when you get on a roll than it is to, break it up into different things. But it does give you a choice to grade everything at once or individually by class notebooks. So let's choose the first option, review student work, and see how it looks. When I click the button, it'll open up on the side over here on the right, and it'll show me all of the tabs. Again, we've put all of the content in Unit 1, so we'll choose that. You'll notice that it pulls up all of the assignments that are in all of my Unit 1 tabs for all of my students. And you'll notice right away that something stands out, that there are two of the first assignment. And what you'll notice is if I select on one of them will say Ava's name, and one of them will say Trey's name. This is what we don't want to happen. What we do want to happen, we'll choose this one here, because there's only a single assignment. When we click next, you'll notice both names show up here. And when I click on Ava, it goes to Ava's folder. Notice I'm in Ava's folder. And then I can grade that paper, and then I can click on Trey's, and I can grade this paper. The reason that we see these two singles assignments is that sometimes if the students manipulate at all the title, even if they accidentally put something in here, so if they typed a T up there and they weren't paying attention and they deleted it, sometimes that'll break the link and you'll get more than one. It's not all the time, but it's occasional. So by rule of thumb, because I like to use this review student work option, I tell the students to avoid touching or manipulating ever the title of their assignments. You can change anything else on there, just leave the titles alone. So if I was grading this third assignment, I'm going to go ahead and click this. I can click on to Ava's here first. I can say, oh, looks like she answered some questions, but she missed these. So there are different ways to respond to this. If you happen to have digital inking, which is my favorite thing to do in here, I can put big X's on there so it's clear that she can see it. I can also, in terms of feedback, go up here at the top and say, you missed a couple. If you go back and fix them, and she can get that. Additionally, we can go in here and choose an audio clip. And if I click audio here, you can see that this has started to record, and you can see the timer counting and say, Ava, good job on the first question, but you missed a few. Please go back and fix those for me. And then I can click stop. What that'll do is it'll leave an audio message that I can move around. And she can listen to that afterwards. So it provides me lots of different ways to provide feedback in here. Probably one other way that we could use, if we go back in here and insert, there is stickers, and those are super nice and useful. You can even have customizable stickers where you can say, well done, and then you can customize the message. I can put Ava in there, well done, Ava, and then that'll put it on her page. We'll close it down so you can see what that looks like. And you notice that it kind of got in the way there, so it moved everything around a little bit, but you can say that sticker goes on there, and you can provide some pretty valuable feedback for your students in this form. Before we move back to the class notebook tab and we finish off the conversation, I wanted to speak just about the fact that I've had a little struggle here putting the sticker, and it's manipulated this page. This is something that in our second video of the PD course, we will go into great depth of how to design these and how the layers work so that you can avoid situations like that where it's mixed up everything that you kind of have done. And additionally, I'll also tell you that Control Z is your friend. If you press Control Z, it will undo and go backwards for everything that you have done or changed so that you can get back to a spot that hasn't manipulated everything. So, but do watch our next video. It will go into great detail on how to avoid situations like that and train your students so that they don't run into the same thing. All right, now let's move back to our class notebook tab. We have completed all of the main parts of this through the review student work. These options here are ones that we actually have already manipulated. You can see if I hover over the top, this says create a class notebook. We've already used that option. We found it in Schoology. These are just duplicates within the notebook itself so that you have another option to get to them. Let's just go back and take a peek at that. If we open this up and we go to Schoology here, we'll click on our OneNote Class tab notebook. It'll ask us to sign in again. But I just wanted to show you so that you can see that these are the same options. Whoops. Well, because we've already created the notebook, there it is. This is what we're looking for. Create a class notebook, add or remove students, add or remove teachers, and manage the notebook. So these options can be accessed through Schoology or right inside of the notebook by using these buttons here, as you can see. So the one that we do want to look at is this manage notebooks here. This is going to have some additional features that we want to take a look at. So we're going to go ahead and click on that. And that's going to open up into a browser tab, a new window that looks like this. And what this allows us to do is see all of the created tabs that we have. Remember we said that we had made a few tabs when we made our project tab for our students, and not just a unit one. You can see that I can change the name on all of these tabs, but once they're created, I can't delete them. There is no delete button for these, so that's why we say start as simple as possible. You can always add more as you go. But let's look at some of the other options that we have here as well. You can turn on or off your teacher section by clicking here. Most of the times you'd want to keep that on. Additionally, at one point in the video when we were in the collaboration space, we talked about the ability to lock it. So if I choose this button here, this toggle, you can see now that the collaboration space is locked. That may take a second, but if we go back to either one of my students and we click on the collaboration space, we go back into this activity, we should see, and you can see me trying here, you can see a little flashes, I cannot manipulate this now. Now the collaboration space is locked. So that's a nice option as well. Another thing you can do with the collaboration space is you can set specific permissions. So if we click on this option, for this tab, it says that there are 2 students that can edit. And then I can come in here and say, you know what, I don't want them to edit anymore, or I just want Ava to edit inside of that space. And then I can save, in which case she will be able to edit that particular page or that tab and anything in it, but Trey will not. So this is fantastic if you wanted to set up groups in here. So you could have group tabs inside of your collaboration space. So you get group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4. You could come in here into this menu option, and then you could pick the students that are in those groups, and then only those grouped students would access that tab. So it would keep other students out of their work, which is a fantastic thing to do if you're doing group work inside of the collaboration space. Again, you can also add sections directly right here. And it looks like you can choose as well the students as you go. So I could create a new group right in here. We'll say group 2, and then I can say, you know, that's Ava's work, and I'll create, and again, she can go into that tab, and Trey will not be able to go into that group tab. That'll take a second to close. Another couple options that you have inside of here is parent and guardian links. These are fantastic for parent-teacher conference nights. I like to generate these and send them out to my parents beforehand so that I know that they've had the ability to go in and see their students' work. Because sometimes the students aren't around or don't give them the right password, whatever it may be, this goes directly to the parent so that they can bypass the student. So if we go here, you can see you can select individual students to generate the code for, or you can just click here and generate it for all of the links for all of your students, and then copy and send those out by email or Teams or whatever it may be. You can even export it as a CSV file. Additionally, you can also get a content library link, because when you share this is going to give them access to the student folder and maybe that welcome tab in your notebook, but you won't see any of the other spaces. So if you want this parents to see the content library or the assignments that you have given, essentially, you can create that link here and or remove that access when you want to take that down. Some super powerful things for your notebook that gives you a little bit more control with it on the big side or the back end, if you will. All right, the last 2 things that we can look at inside of the class notebook ribbon is a tab for professional development, and then additionally a tab for help and or feedback. If you click on these, It gives you some nice tutorials or guides or links essentially to different web pages that will help you out with this. One of my favorite ones is the Microsoft Educator Center. If we open this up, this is where I do a lot of my studying. You can see here that they give you courses that you can choose. You can get lesson plans. You can get training. You can see learning paths. So here's some courses. We'll click on courses. Of course, we're learning about OneNote, so I'm going to go ahead and type OneNote in here. Hit enter, and then anything that's OneNote related in terms of a course should pop up. Getting started with OneNote. These accessibilities have OneNote involved with them. A OneNote Class Notebook, a teacher's all-in-one notebook for students. These would be great additions to this video to go through. These are quick, they are easy. It's usually just a video and a quiz, and you can start them. They may have you sign in. If you sign in, you can get some points and some badges. And then eventually, if you get enough points and enough badges and you apply, you can become a Microsoft Innovative Educator expert like I am, which would be fantastic. Come join the crew. It's a great place. But there are some useful resources right here. Additionally, if you need help and or feedback, you can ask for questions here. You can send feedbacks. You can suggest a feature that you'd like to see in there. And again, their user voice forum is very active, and they do respond to it probably more than any other educational resource that I'm aware of. But that should give you a little bit of help to kind of get you along your journey with your class notebook. Now, we've completed talking about the class notebook. I think we only have one more section to talk about, which is, where is my notebook? Where does it live? There are 3 different places that your notebook lives based off where you create it. Actually, there's only 2 places that it lives based off of 3 different ways that you can create it. You can create it in Schoology like we did, which is going to store the notebook in OneDrive in a folder called Class Notebooks. Okay. Additionally, if we make it in Office 365, which would look identical to the Schoology process, just not done in Schoology, it will also store it in the same place in that OneDrive with the Class Notebooks. And then if we create it in Teams, which we didn't talk about in this video, it's going to save that video into SharePoint. Now that's kind of like OneDrive for everyone. Really what it is it's the Teams OneDrive. That's what this SharePoint is. And so you don't really own that notebook. The team owns the notebook. If you make it in Schoology and Office 365, you own that notebook and you can find it. The reason that I bring this up is that sometimes you might want to delete notebooks, or you might want to change the name of a notebook. And I want you to have the ability to find those notebooks. So the easiest way to do that is to navigate to your Office 365. So you can either go by link through ClassLink or through office.com, or just if you're in one of your apps, you can go to the waffle and you can go to your OneDrive. Once you go into OneDrive, you'll notice that there should be a folder in there that's going to say Class Notebooks. And if we click on it, what you'll see are the notebooks that we've been working with. It'll give a little OneNote symbol. You'll see right here, it says Demo, OneNote Class Notebook. This is the notebook that we've been working in. There's that Delete Me one that we send materials to. Here's some other ones that I've had. So any of your class notebooks will live inside of the tab or the file tab that says Class Notebook. Another way that you can access them, and again, I guess we should talk about why we're here. This is where you can change the name of these, right? So if you click on that particular one, you can rename it, you can move it, you can copy it, you can delete it. So if there are notebooks that you're tired of, you're not using, go ahead and click on it and say delete. We can go ahead and delete this one. It says delete me, so we will delete you. And that's gone now. One other thing to note with this, again, if it's made in Schoology or Office 365, and what I mean by make it in an Office 365 is here, choosing this option will go right through that same menu that we saw in Schoology. But we can also choose the OneNote option here in our waffle. And what this will do is this is a nice place to compile all of your notebooks, class notebooks and other. So any recent notebooks, you can see that's the one we've been in. That shows up under recent. I can pin particular notebooks, which I have not done. This is going to be my OneNote notebooks, not class notebooks. Should not show up here, even though that one is. I guess this just means that it's mine. This is going to show ones that are shared with me, ones that people have shared that access with. These should show just my class notebooks. And then again, if I click this link, it's going to take me to the location that they're at. So you can see here that this is, part of the SharePoint. So I wanted to show you these two things so you can have multiple ways to access this notebook. So if Schoology's down, you can access that notebook by going to OneNote, and you could access it by going to your OneDrive. Same for your students. It's another way to get to those notebooks. But if we did what we said that we did, we would be working in the OneNote app, Windows 10 app. So we would have it down here on our desktop, and we would right click on this and choose Pin to Taskbar. And then we would just open our notebook by clicking on this icon and go right into it. We wouldn't even need to go into Schoology if it was down on a day. Or if we didn't have internet, we could still work on that notebook from our desktop. Super powerful. If you created it in a team, it lives in a different spot. We won't go into great detail about that, but do know that you can do some of these changes and manipulate it, but changing things like the name or where it's stored or deleting it resides in how you operate with the team. That will be a separate PD at a different time. That'll be more teams focused. But for this one, we've come to the end of our PD. And I want to thank all of you for attending. We appreciate your time. Hopefully that you learned a few things. Maybe you learned a lot. Maybe this was a new section for you and you've come walking away with tons of information. You're not sure where to start, that's okay, right? That's where we want to be sometimes. But hopefully you've got that desire to all right, I'm going to make this notebook. Let's see what this looks like. Maybe you're an advanced user of OneNote, or you've been using OneNote for a while and you come away with some really good tips. That would also be awesome if you were in that location as well. Either way, thank you for attending. We appreciate your time. Hopefully you learned something from us, and we'll see you hopefully in the next video.